I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Now, most people, when they hear hypnotism, are very fascinated by it. I have a huge fascination for hypnotism. Well, we have a very special guest that specializes in that, Miss Amy Koford. She is also known as the Happy Hypnotist. She's here to help you learn all about how the power of hypnosis can serve you. She is a highly acclaimed speaker, best-selling author, clinical hypnotist, as well as and performer of highly entertaining hypnosis shows. She has done thousands of one-on-one sessions, and she excels in empowering individuals to overcome depression and anxiety, heal from past traumas, conquer their fears, stop smoking in one session, be confident and successful, love themselves, sleep well, you name it. She has done everything under the sun when it comes to hypnosis and helping people get over issues that they've had, as well as make them be happily and peacefully in their life. So Amy, welcome to the show. I cannot wait to have our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
As I told her before, I have a whole fest going on here. Um, my cat has joined me in my room today due to the fact that we have plumbers coming. So, um, he's moping around in my room. So if you hear something brush up against the microphone, that's him. And then if you hear a dog barking in the background, that's our lovely family dog barking. So uh that's what's going on right now. So it's gonna be probably a chaotic show, but we'll make do with it. But Amy, if you could tell me a little bit more about yourself and kind of share a little bit about how you got into hypnosis.
Sure. Yeah, so it kind of goes back to when I was going through some depression bouts. And at the time, because of my natural way of being, my nature is to be a problem solver. I wanted to find something fast that worked. In other words, I wasn't very patient about it. And so years and years later, I'm doing fine. I've come out of those, difficult depression moments. And I was at a point in my life where my kids were getting older. I have 5 kids. And for a while there, I was a stay-at-home mom. And my kids were at ages where I didn't need to be a stay-at-home mom anymore. And so I started asking God, I started to kind of put it out there. Hey, I don't want to go back to human resources. That's what I had done before I was a stay-at-home mom. And so I started to pray about it and say, I would love to know what my mission in life is. How can I make this world better? And to my surprise, I started to look into hypnotism. And I think the reason I did is because when I had gone through bouts of depression, I would go to therapy and it just didn't cut it for me. Now, that's in no way to, put anything down. I love my therapist friends. I respect him. For me personally, it just didn't quite give me the results I wanted. And so I think that combined with the inspiration from God got me looking into it more and more and becoming interested in it. And I was leaning towards becoming a hypnotist. And so I decided to go to a hypnotist and experience it for myself as a client. So that was my next step. I went to a hypnotist and I liked it a lot. And so I thought, you know what? I want to give this a try. And so I went to school for certification. It took me about 3 months at about 14 hours a week. So it was quite a bit of schooling. And when I got done, I started to see clients and it worked. Even though I was brand new, it was working. And that encouraged me to put the word out more and to help people more. And I was so excited that it was working. And it made me want to be better at it. It made me want to be the best hypnotist in the world. And so I started to attend conferences and eventually I traveled the world, and I've trained with some of the best people in the world. And so but it started out with that, where I became interested in it because of my past experiences with regular therapy and thinking, I wonder if there's something that would work better. And that's just me. That's my personality where I want solutions. I want results. And so, yeah, that's how I became interested in it.
One thing that kind of has that's the difference between you and other guests I've had on is I've had other hypnotherapists come on as well, but they really only specialize in doing the hypnotherapy where it's one-on-one or they do it kind of in a
Yeah.
small setting. I like how you kind of have done performing shows as well, have gone and done hypnosis shows. Is there a process that you have to go by when it comes to doing a hypnotherapy when it's one-on-one compared to a hypnosis show where you're performing and putting on a show for a crowd of people?
Yeah. Hypnosis shows are a lot of fun, and I do see a difference. So when I'm doing a one on one session in my office, I can take the time with that person to get them into that deep state. And in shows, I'm looking for those that can get there quickly. Now, anyone and everyone can be hypnotized, and I've never had anyone that cannot. The difference with shows is that I just can't take the same amount of time. I'm entertaining an audience. And so, what I noticed that with shows is that there is a contagious effect where because there's a group of people on the stage that are all getting hypnotized, it's almost like if someone yawns or he laughs, it makes us want to do that. And
Mm.
so I get everyone on stage, hypnotized unless they're being too slow or if they're having any attitude, I'll send them back to their seat. But yes, what's also happening with that too is not only that because they're collectively going really deep into a hypnotic state, I'm also pulling them out and putting them back. And when you do that, it causes them to go deeper every time. So I did a show a couple of weeks ago where it was college age people. And the people in the front on the chairs were so deep that they kept falling out of their chairs. And so I had to have some people in the audience come and hold them up. And I, told them you'll be able to stay in the chair even in hypnosis and then still flop out. So yeah, in a one-on-one session, I'm not really testing that. You know what I mean? They're just in a
Mm.
comfortable recliner. I'm not having them stand up and do things. So I don't really, I can see how deep they are just with their body language. It's easy for me. I've done thousands of sessions and I can see how deep someone is, but not the same way as a show. In a show, I'm able to test how deep they are because the way that they're responding, the way that they're following instructions, and the audience can tell too. If there's any hint that they're not hypnotized, the audience and I can tell. So then I would send them back. But when it's a session, it doesn't matter how deep because it's going to work anyway. And I record their session and send it home with them so that they can get that reinforcement and, create those neural pathways. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of difference, but it's still the same principles, right? That we're getting into that part of their mind that's bigger and we're getting past the critical factor, which is, in other words, called the conscious mind.
When you've been doing the shows, I've actually been to one hypnotist show. We had a hypnotist come and he did performed and did a routine with our classmates too. This was back when I was in high school. This was a few years ago. And you kind of had mentioned a good point about falling out of your seat. The one thing I've worried about is people when they fall out of their seats, they kind of don't really have any control, really, because they just get real passed out. Have you ever had an
Yeah.
instance where someone has gotten really hurt from
No.
whether they fall and hit their head or crack their head open any?
No, and I'm very careful about that. That if I have people who are falling, I'll have people from the audience come and help, or I will just stop the show for a second and make sure that I'm guiding them down to the floor safely. No, I've never had any issues with injuries, but it could happen in someone else's show, or you know what I mean? Like you do have to be careful of that, but no, I've never had that. And who was your hypnotist at that show? Do you remember the name?
I can't remember the name. It was a man that
Okay.
did come. I can't,
I
for the
wonder if
life
it's
of me,
someone I
remember
know.
his name.
I know a lot of the stage hypnotists around the world. So I was
His
curious
name
if it was
kind of
someone I know.
has. If I did like a huge deep dive, I might could find it, but I don't. That was like I think about 7 6 7 years ago. So it was a long
Okay.
it was a long time ago, but I can't
Yeah.
fully remember. But
No, I
yeah,
understand.
it was fun though. It was something that I wanted to get hypnotized. So he tried to get the whole audience kind of to go under a hypnosis to see who
Hmm.
could fall into it. And once and then he would pick out a few kids that had really fallen into it and could come up on stage. And I tried, and of course, I got a cough attack in the middle of it. My brain was going 90 miles a minute. I heard someone's talking over here, and I said, "Well, this is not working for me." But it was funny because you see people with their eyes closed, and you look around, and it's like, you try not to laugh too because it looks so dumb. It was like, this looks so like we're all in a coffin. And then some people obviously couldn't really fall into it. Some people opened their eyes. Well, I remember there was a girl that was, I want to say 3 or 4 rows down from me, maybe five. And I just saw her head do this. And I'm like, is she possessed? What is going I said, this ain't hypnotized. This is possession right here. But I don't think she got called up. But because some people, I think he was asking, is there anyone? And people were just pointing to other different kinds of people all over the room. And it was just
Yeah.
really funny. Um, do you prefer doing the hypnosis shows more, or do you prefer the one-on-one hypnotherapy sessions that actually kind of deal with more serious issues?
Well, that's a good question. I like both because they're very different. A show is for entertainment, but I always make sure that in my shows that I finish them off with good stuff so that the people that are up on the stage come out of it improved, right? They'll never be the same. They'll be a lot better version of themselves after they come out of my show. And so I make sure that that happens. And I last year I did a show where a woman called me a few years or a few like a few weeks later, not years. A few weeks later, she called and she said, I don't know what you did to me. I was one of the people that came up front, but I have slept better than I ever have in my life since then. And I said, well, good to know. So people still benefit from being in the show, right? One-on-ones I love because then I get to know the person and I get to solve and, resolve their individual issues. And so that's rewarding in a different way because I get people who come to me who are very in a low place, right? Like they're very in the midst of suffering, they're struggling. And when I work with them and they go off to be empowered, right? Like they feel so much better, their issues are resolved. That is incredibly rewarding. So, for different reasons, I don't know which one I like better, but I do love both. I love how much fun the shows are. I love that it benefits them. And I also love that when people come for one-on-one sessions, it works and they go off and live a better life and they are able to move forward in really positive ways.
You've had some really, as you have mentioned, you've done thousands of sessions. Can you share some miraculous stories of people that have had really huge success, or have had really huge success from after being in one of your sessions?
Oh, sure. I could go on all day. But just to pull out a few examples, one particular client comes to mind that came to me years and years ago. She was probably about 19 or 20. And she told me, I don't want to be here, meaning she didn't want to live. So she was suicidal and in a really low place. And she and we really had a good rapport. And I saw her come out of it a little here and there throughout her sessions. I think she only did like 6 or 7 sessions. And she was doing so well by the end of her sessions that she just beamed, right? She smiled. Well, I happen to know her parents. And so recently I saw her dad and I said, "How is she doing?" He said, "She is still doing great." And so we're talking, 7 years later, where he said she has her own business, she's doing amazing. And stuff like that is so rewarding, and that's just one example from like someone in the depression and anxiety category. I also um, I help people stop smoking in one session. And I just heard from someone a few days ago. She just reached out of the blue and said, I just want you to know that I'm still a non-smoker and I love the freedom. I love how I have more money and I just feel I have more energy. So that was fun, right? Just out of the blue. She said, just want to let you know I'm still a non-smoker. A couple of others, I've had clients who have had very difficult circumstances or very difficult lives. One of them that stands out, she had had a really hard life. I mean, wow. And I won't go into details because I don't want anyone, to know who she is. I take confidentiality very seriously, but
I do
let's just,
actually, I do bleep her
yeah.
name out. I do bleep names out.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, I would never say their name, but details I got to be careful of.
Okay.
Um, Suffice it to say that she was severely injured as a child,
Mhm.
um, and spent most of her childhood in hospitals and even had like an alcoholic dad, and one of her kids died. And I mean, she had a really hard life. And, but with the sessions, I saw her come out of that to where she was a whole new person. I mean, it was incredible. She loved it. She was excited to be alive again. It was amazing. And one, I mean, like I say, I could go on all day, but one story that I think is really fun. A few years ago, I helped a woman stop smoking. And then about a year later, she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I want to come back for a session about something else." So we schedule it. She comes back and she says, "Well, I haven't touched a cigarette since our session a year ago." And she said, "I want to work on fear of heights because now she was very afraid of heights. When she had come to me the year before, we did work a little bit on claustrophobia. She didn't even want to go in elevators. She wouldn't fly in a plane. And so she felt like, I got to overcome this because I want to travel with friends. She said, I see my friends go on trips and I don't dare go on an airplane. And so she comes back and she says, all right, we got to work on this fear of heights because my son just graduated and he wants to go skydiving for his graduation present. I said, okay.
Oh,
I said, you realize that this is much more than skydiving for you. By overcoming this fear, it's going to open up your entire world because you'll realize that you can do things. And she said, yeah. I said, well, you're going to see it more after this. Like your whole world is going to be better because you have overcome this. And so we did a session. And after the session, she was scheduled to do this skydiving the next day. And she said, I am really excited. And I said, good. I want to see pictures. So sure enough, the next day she sent me videos and pictures of her skydiving. And this is the same woman that wouldn't even fly in a plane or get in an elevator. And so, you know, I'm sure I would love to hear back from her. I'm sure that that it proved to herself, okay, look what I can do. Now I can do more. Now, because I did this, I know that I can do other things. It proves us when we do that. It gives us confidence. It makes us realize that we can do more, that we're capable. And so that was a fun story. And sure enough, she sent me the pictures and videos and said it was an amazing experience.
that
So,
is amazing how she kind of went from couldn't get in an elevator to couldn't really fly an airplane, and then here she is jumping out of a plane. It's
oh,
amazing what this hypnotherapy can do. Um,
yeah.
Kind of as like a follow-up question, have there been instances where you've had people that have reached out to you, maybe kind of for an example, saying that they wanted to quit smoking and they quit smoking and after a while they start smoking again? Is there a possibility that people can fall back in their kind of old ways of maybe they went to a therapy session to get rid of a fear that they had and they got fearful of it again, or they've fallen back into an old habit that they used to have?
There is the possibility. It's just going to be something that you have to make yourself do. Like so when someone does a stop smoking session, and I used to not do this as much, but nowadays, if someone stops with me, it's going to be really hard for them to start again because I program their mind to be repulsed by it, to reject it, to repel it. And so if they tried, they would have to really put in some effort to start again because their mind is like, oh no, no, I reject this. A couple of years ago, I helped a woman stop smoking. And she actually signed up for some depression and anxiety sessions too.
Mhm.
So, first off, we got her to stop smoking, and then we were doing these other sessions to resolve some of her other issues. And at one of those subsequent sessions, she said, okay, I got to confess something. She said, one day I was really stressed and I was kind of going through my purse and I discovered some nicotine pills that I forgot I had in there. She said, I forgot that I had these nicotine pills. Because when someone stops smoking with me, I tell them to bring all their packs, their lighters. If they're stopping vaping, I'll say, bring it all and I'm going to throw it away. You won't need it or want it. Well,
Mhm.
she had done that with me. We threw away her cigarettes, but she found these nicotine pills in her purse. And so she said that she tried to put one in her mouth and it would not. She said, my body immediately rejected it. As soon as I put it in my mouth, she said, I spit it right back out. She said, I couldn't. She said, my mind, my body would not allow it. I literally just spit it right out. So, yeah, I mean, it can theoretically happen. It's just going to be really hard. And, that would be sad if they undo that because I make it hard for them to start again. As far as fear of the same thing, again, I think that that's going to be a hard one too, to make yourself be scared of the same thing that we've resolved. because what we do is help you see it differently. And so, yeah, again, it's possible. It's just not likely.
It seems like hypnotherapy is kind of like this way of it's like groundbreaking, and it's like, why isn't everyone doing it? Do doctors really kind of stay away from hypnotherapy because it's so kind of when it comes to smoking and drugs and addiction, most people say most doctors would recommend go to a rehabilitation center, go to a rehab, go to an AA meeting, go to some kind of physician that specializes in drugs and alcohol when they could easily just go to a hypnotherapist and get this done
Yep.
in essentially one session. It's like they can easily change. Are doctors afraid that if they recommend people to hypnotherapy that more people would want to do it and then that way they wouldn't really want to come to a doctor anymore?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think some doctors are on board with hypnosis. Some doctors fully agree with it and believe in it. I've had some doctors who are like, "Oh yeah, I believe in it." And there's this doctor named Dr. Weil who's written a number of books on kind of alternative methods. And he wrote a book about hypnosis. And he said that he had to take a hypnosis class in medical school. He went to Harvard Medical School back in, I think, the 70s. And in this book that he wrote that I listened to years ago, he talked about how that was his favorite class in medical school. He had a hypnosis class in medical school, and it was his favorite.
Hmm.
And he said it made me fascinated with it. And so I think it just depends on a lot of things. Certainly, there's going to be the skeptics out there with it when it comes to doctors. Um, but I know that some doctors realize that stopping smoking with hypnosis is far more effective. So when people use patches, gums, and willpower, you're looking at about a 10 to maybe 30% success rate that way. And
Hmm.
with hypnosis, with me, it's like 94, 95% success. It's dramatically better. As far as drug and alcohol go, you know, that's different. I can get people to stop smoking because they're actually not addicted to nicotine. They think they are, but they're not. Because nicotine, it makes itself out of your system in about 48 hours. Drugs and alcohol are different. And so when I get people that come to me for those kind of addictions, we need more sessions than one. Partly because those are truly addictive, right? Whereas nicotine is not. And number two, because when someone is addicted to alcohol and drugs, oftentimes, I would say actually all the time, we have problems in there that are challenges that need to be resolved. Okay. In other words, when someone comes to me for alcohol or drug addiction or porn, I get some people that come to me for pornography addiction, um, food, weight loss. They're all very similar in that what's really happening is that you've got a core problem, a core challenge that has not been resolved. And so the addiction is about that. The person doesn't want to feel it, right? A lot of times when someone is alcoholic, it's because they don't want to face and feel the core problems, whether it's past traumas. Oftentimes it is, right? Oftentimes it is past traumas. So, what we have then is what I call problem A and problem B. And I talk about this in my book. Um, so, problem A is the real issue, right? There, whatever past traumatic experience, whatever it is that they don't know how to resolve on their own. And so they turn to drugs or alcohol to cope. Now, you brought up AA meetings, and it's funny when I see any type of show or movie with an AA meeting, I always cringe because I see them on these stand up and tell the rest of the members there, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm an alcoholic."
Hmm.
And I'll always like yell at the screen, "No, Don't do that. The reason is because what's happening is that you're reinforcing that to your subconscious. Now, the subconscious is like a computer, it's going to take what you give it as literal truth. So when people do that, I'm like, no, that makes it hard, right? Because you're telling your subconscious that you're an alcoholic. So, of course, it's going to say, okay, let's go get a drink. So I feel like, maybe in my lifetime or something, that'll change as somehow those that do that program will say, wait a minute, maybe we should have a little bit of different approach that way. Maybe they should admit it to themselves that they have a problem at first, but then afterwards they start to get up and say, I'm recovered, or something like that, that puts that into their subconscious rather than I'm an alcoholic, which makes it present tense, right? So, yeah, addictions and things like that can be kind of complex where we have to dive in. We have to figure out what is the real issue. Why do you feel the need to escape from your problems? What is it that you're running away from? We have to resolve that in order to resolve the alcoholism.
Have you ever had people come to you that have had really outlandish reasonings for coming into a hypnotherapy session where it's not maybe someone that's wanting to get help, or they might want to get help on something, but it's something that you would never would have thought in a career choice so that you would be having to do a hypnotherapy session on this?
I love your question. Yeah, I've had some interesting things over the years. I had to do an exorcism type of a session. She came to me, she said, I'm possessed. I mean, I didn't know quite how to handle it other than I had been warned you might get that. I had been told by colleagues, yeah, you might get that sometimes. And so I did what I could to help her let those go and sent her on her way. So yeah, I've had an exorcism request. I've had people who um pull out their eyelashes or pull out their hair, um and I've helped them stop. And one of them in particular, she had gone to years and years of therapy. She started as a child pulling out her hair, and when she came to me, her hair was very thin. There wasn't a whole lot left on her head. And so I got her to stop after the first session, and then I had subsequent sessions to resolve what was really going on. Why are you pulling out your hair? That let's get that fixed now. Let's take care of that. And her mom was kind of, funny where she said, I can't believe we went to all these years of therapy. We had her on antidepressants. We've done all this and it didn't work. And then you do it in one session. You know, she's like, I cannot believe. And earlier you asked, why are more people not doing this? And I think that there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I feel like film and television has completely warped the way it's viewed, where people think it's scary or it's mind control, right? That they're going to become a zombie and not have any idea what they're doing. And so I think that there are some misunderstandings with that. And I've learned that there's a lot of misunderstandings with hypnotism. I think the other reason is that people just don't know that it works that well. They just
Hmm.
don't know, right? Like they haven't come across any kind of information letting them know that wow, this works really fast and really well.
I think a lot of these professions and therapists and doctors don't want that revenue of money coming in, because they could easily get money from people that come in and they'll try anything they can. It's kind of like with that therapy with the woman that was pulling her hair out. I think they were afraid to recommend her to a hypnotherapist because they knew that it would fix this issue up instantly. I'd rather keep you for years and give you all these medicines and treatments and stuff to try to help it while also draining money. I think that's a thing that a lot of professionals are afraid of is losing that source of money coming in. They're like, how much money? It's like, how much money can we get from one person? And I'm afraid that if
Yeah.
they recommend them to someone else, that's just money that's going out the window. And it's a way for other people to maybe realize, oh, this is happening to me too. They leave and they go out of business because people finally kind of learn their secret. It's kind of, it seems like that's kind of the
Yeah.
pattern I've noticed. But I
Yeah.
do like that you had brought up a thing about media and perceptions of stuff. I think the media does a really bad job of portraying when it comes to mental health issues and like therapy offices. I've seen countless movies and TV shows of people that are in a psychiatrist's office or they're in a therapy office, and it always shows just people that are in there for crazy things where someone might be in there that's schizophrenic, that's talking to someone that's not there. Someone's coming in and they're like doing all these kind of weird head movements or something. And but in actuality, you could walk into a therapist's office or a psychiatrist's office today or in this moment, and there could be a mom with two kids sitting here waiting for the doctor. Here's a man over here that's dressed up in a suit and tie going in before his shift at work, and then here's a middle
Yeah.
schooler over here. So I want people to know that I've been to therapy offices, I've been to psychiatrist
Yeah.
offices. TV and movies do a really crappy job of portraying it. You you'd be more
Oh, yeah.
surprised at how many people that are in office in those kinds of environments that you would never would have thought would be in there.
Yeah. I agree. There's a lot of just normal, regular people going to therapists. And that was kind of a pleasant surprise for me because when I became a hypnotist, I did kind of have concerns of if people would even come, right?
Hmm.
Or if they would just go, nope, that's too far out there. It's like new agey, it's weird. But to my pleasant surprise, I've had a lot of people come to me and of all kinds of backgrounds. They're not weird, they're not new agey. These are just normal people that just want to get results. And I take that very seriously. And I'll tell them, I want you to get the results that you came to me for. And I'll do everything in my power to get you those results. One thing that you brought up too, with doctors, wanting to keep clients, I think that there's some of that. And there's also, though, a lot of people nowadays, at least where I live, we're a lot more open minded to new ways of feeling better. And I've seen that growing. Alternative methods are
Hmm.
definitely doing better. Years ago, I was going through a very difficult illness, and I went to an alternative clinic because I had been to every normal doctor, right? I had been to specialists, and I was not getting anywhere. In fact, I actually ended up getting worse. I ended up with a disease called C. diff. And so I thought, I have nothing to lose, you know? So I went to an alternative clinic and it was packed. That clinic had more people than they knew what to do with. And so what I see where I am is that people are sick of not getting results with doctors. They're just done. They go, they get blood tests, everything shows normal. They
Hmm.
feel like garbage and they're told that, well, we can't find anything. Sorry, see ya. Here's a prescription.
Right.
People are done. And so the alternative world is growing in leaps and bounds. And I think that that's good because hypnotism can be viewed as an alternative method that works really, really well. And so, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I think doctors are trying to keep them. And on the other hand, I think that some doctors, just by and large, they're following a certain protocol that says, well, we have to just take all their blood panel, we have to do these tests. And if nothing shows up, try to figure out some prescription. And people are just not
Yeah.
satisfied with that. They
Yeah.
want to get well.
I 100% agree with that, and I do understand that some doctors, I think, are having to follow strict protocols from a boss that's higher than them, that they have
Yeah,
to follow a guideline or else they'll get fired from the job. I do
right.
understand that, and then you have
Yeah,
no control in that. I do understand that. Um, I think another thing of why it's so, I guess, not really talked about as much, it's kind of a demographic issue where it's a lot of, kind of newer generations are more open-minded. It's kind of like what you said, or coming to more be open to the idea of trying alternative things. And I think that's what a lot of young people like to do. People that have been around for a long time that didn't grow up with this hypnotherapy, that didn't grow up with all these kind of mental health issues. They just don't think it's that huge of a deal because when they were growing up, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't popularized
yeah.
then. So I think it's also kind of an age demographic as well. It's kind of like it really just depends on kind of like you said where you grow up from. I think it also kind of has to it relates to geographic areas as well, and
I think
just kind of
so.
where you come
And I
from.
I think I would agree more with the age thing if I hadn't seen for myself that older people have been coming to me too. So you're right. And I also see people that are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s
Mhm.
with that same kind of exasperation of, I've tried to get well with doctors and it hasn't worked. And, so they'll just think, I'll do anything to feel better. And so then they start to look at alternatives. So I would agree with you more if I hadn't seen for myself over the years that I've had people of all ages come to hypnotists and be more open to these alternative holistic methods. So you're right. And I see more than that.
Well, maybe it's kind of a thing where this older generation is becoming more open-minded. It
Hmm.
could be
I think
changing,
so.
and I think I never really knew what hypnotherapy was. I didn't really know the difference when I started doing interviews. I think you're about the fourth and fifth person I've interviewed now, maybe six, that has specialized in hypnotherapy, and I never really knew what it was or anything. And when I've interviewed my other guests, it's been kind of a gradual thing of going from, does this really work like what they say, to where I've had multiple people say different things, but they all had the same reasoning and had the same conclusion that it does work. So I
Yeah.
think it does work, even though I've never have personally done it. Just from interviewing multiple guests on here that have had very much huge success stories, and they've told me stories of clients like you have. I think it's something that really needs to be people need to really try. Um,
Yeah.
Kind of like real quickly, and we don't have to explain this whole thing, but for people that are listening to this that maybe would like to try hypnotherapy for the first time, say if I came in and I was kind of give you like because I want you to kind of maybe explain a little bit about what the process is like, but I know it takes a long time probably to explain because there's multiple steps. But
Mhm.
as an overview, if someone came in and they were afraid of sharks, but they really wanted to go on a beach trip with their family, explain the process of how you would start to make it to where they wouldn't have that phobia of sharks anymore and that they could be open-minded and be able to go to the beach.
Huh. It's very interesting that you bring that up because that was one of my fears. And I talk about this in my book too. So I went from being very afraid to go into the ocean to swimming with sharks last year, cage free. That's my personal progress. As far as someone coming in that wants to overcome a fear, so the process is that first I want to identify things and I'll put them in hypnosis. And sometimes I'm going to ask their unconscious mind, what's the purpose of this? It depends on what we're dealing with. Okay. Once in a while, then what I'll do is take them back to their past and find out, where did this start? Why did it start? Why is it still going on? I need to know all the circumstances of the fear. And then we'll go back and resolve it, starting at the beginning and work our way forward. And depending on, I mean, there's a number of ways, that I approach fears or phobias and things like that. But yeah, it's always with instructing the unconscious mind that it's okay. Those fears, those phobias served a purpose in their correct time, like they were appropriate at the right time, the right circumstance. However, that is no longer needed because that appropriate time and circumstance has long since come and gone. So, oftentimes with phobias and fears too, I'll help them feel safe, right? I have to instill into their subconscious that there is safety in the world and that, statistically speaking, you're going to be okay. And you're going to be glad that you overcame your fear, because when you overcome fears, it empowers you to reach your full potential. So, for some people, they just need a few sessions, and other people need more. It depends on how complex and when it started. And, there's just a lot to people's issues. And so
Mhm.
I just try to find out first, well, how, what, how big is this? And get an assessment that way of how many sessions I'll need to do. But then every session is going to be very, very different. So if they needed 4 sessions, every session is going to be vastly different because I'm approaching it, getting at it, and resolving it in different ways with different perspectives, different methods, different techniques. So, yeah, that's how it goes. But it's funny that you bring that up. Like, I literally did not dare go into the ocean until I was in my 30s, my late 30s. And for me, I just one day said, I'm not going to let fear stop me. And so I pushed through it. And same with last summer. I wasn't planning on getting in the water with sharks, but it just kind of came up where they said, hey, get in. And I was like, whoa. And I had 2 of my kids. I think I mentioned that I have 5 kids, and my 2 of my older boys were with me and they got in. And I said, well, if they get in, I'm not going to let fear stop me. I got to get in too. And I love sharks. Even though I was afraid of them, I actually love sharks.
Mm.
And so when I got in the water and I was just me and them, no cage, no protection, the first thought that came to me is, wow, they are so beautiful. I'm just in awe. Like I was just, it was almost like I felt closer to God. It was a beautiful experience. They were swimming by me and I was like, oh, you're so beautiful.
I
So it's
remember
actually,
I was hearing
yeah,
this comedian story of one time of she was in Australia and she was swimming in the ocean and she had noticed that there was a group of people surrounded him or surrounding something. So she swam over there and was kind of interested. And they're like, "What are y'all doing?" They're like playing with a shark. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And she kind of like was like, but there said, and then she kind of told this funny story about what happened when she was there, and but it was kind of a thing where, I've never been afraid of sharks, but it's made me kind of be hesitant about getting in the water at the beach because of how close they come up now. It's like,
yeah,
which down on the Gulf Coast, they really like to get real shore happy a little bit too much. Sharks here do.
yeah. That's where some of the
So
food is. Yeah,
So they get a little too shore happy and come up a little too close to my liking. So it's and it's gotten worse over the years. They used to not come up as far, but it's like every year they come closer up.
yeah.
Um, Kind of to
And it's
wrap things.
okay to have a healthy fear because they can
Hmm.
hurt people, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to have a healthy fear that tells you, watch, be watchful, and be cautious. but don't let it keep you from going in the water at all, because it's very possible that you could go in the water 1,000 times and never see anything. And
Yeah,
so,
I agree
yeah,
with
go
that.
ahead. And I brought up another story. Another one of my fears was snakes. And I've been to Africa twice. And on one of my trips to Africa, we went on this safari to this cool place that had like rock cliffs everywhere, and it had this open grass, and there was zebras wandering around, and they said, well, okay, here you can get out and wander around and get close to the zebras. And I thought, yay, that sounds awesome. And they said, but beware that there's black mambas and vipers. And mind you, it's tall grass, right?
Oh,
And so I literally had to sit there because snakes have always been my phobia. And so I had to sit there and say, oh my gosh, what do I do? I've been dreaming of coming to Africa for 30 years. Here I am. I want to go be with the zebras. And so I literally just said, I'm not going to let fear stop me. And so I got out and I wandered up to the zebras. And incidentally, my friend and now my friend lives in Africa. She's native. And
hmm.
we went climbing around the hills, and we never did see a snake. And then I've been back to Africa since then, and I've never ever seen a snake. And so it's a good thing that I didn't let fear stop me, because I would have missed out on really some amazing experiences.
Yeah, my mom has a huge phobia of snakes. She's scared of anything snake related. She can't watch a movie with one in it. She can't look at a picture, nothing. She has a huge phobia for that. So, um, I have to give you prompts to be able to go like walk, have the thing of going out from the car and walk out to a zebra. She wouldn't even leave the car. She probably wouldn't
Oh
leave the
yeah.
hotel.
And black mambas are just horrible snakes. They are
Yeah.
fast, they're long, they're aggressive, they're not afraid of people. They are
Hmm.
nothing to be fooled around with. But I was just like, I have to do this. And so that's, I've taken my career into all these amazing places, and one of them is writing a book. And my book is now an international bestseller. It just got the label on it a few days ago, where it says international bestseller on it. And
It's
it's all
awesome.
about fear. My whole book is about conquering fear, because honestly, what I've learned over the years is that we were meant to be better than this. Fear is a mechanism to keep us safe and alive, but it's not meant to rule us and to be our boss and to keep us from reaching our potential. So, if you're a Bible person, just for fun, I bring this up in my book. How many times does the Bible say, fear not? Take a guess.
It's probably a lot.
It is a
Or
lot. Now, I didn't go through the Bible and count them myself, but according to Google, it is 365 times.
wow.
Now, that's a lot. And
Hmm.
so, what I noticed over the years doing what I do, and with shows, I do speaking. I'm a motivational speaker, a keynote speaker, and I do shows. And now I'm going to be doing in-person events where I'm going to be doing depression and anxiety workshops, in person and online, that a bunch of people at once can get the resolution, the transformation that they want. But I wrote a book about fear because, number one, I observed over the thousands of sessions that fear was somehow always a part of the problem. Whatever someone brought to me that they wanted resolved, there was some element of fear in there. And I also felt really inspired. I felt like God wanted me to write this book because individually, fear can hold us back, and fear can also cause us a lot of suffering with anxiety, stress, worry, right? All that is fear. I also noticed that the world at large, I don't even need to convince you. or any of your listeners that the world just has way too much fear, way too much. We all know that. But what I would like to bring up in my book is okay, we know that, but we should not be okay with that because we are meant to be more. We are not meant to let fear be the boss of the world. And I talk about how fear causes more world problems than anything else besides natural disasters. It is our number one enemy because it causes all the problems, right? Violence and greed and wars and all this stuff is basically fear. It's like Yoda says, fear is the path to the dark side, and he talks about how it leads to anger and hate and suffering. And so I am on a mission to wake the world up and say, hey, you're far stronger and far more powerful than fear. And it's time for us to rise up and to overthrow fear as the ruler of the world, and we take back our power.
100% agree. To kind of wrap things up, if people would maybe if they would like to maybe learn some advice or if you have some tips and tricks about how they could get into hypnotherapy and maybe give some warm advice to them if they want to start doing it, where can they best connect with you or find you? And feel free to also promote the book or where people can find the book as well.
Yeah, thank you. So go to my website, amykoford.com. It's spelled AMYKO Ford, like the car. amykoford.com. And on there's a link to my book. It's on Amazon. It's called Hardwired to Rise: Live Fearlessly, Prosperously, and Optimally. And it is all about that. Like it will change your life in amazing, wonderful ways to read my book. And also, on my website is my link to my stand store, which has all kinds of things to help you, to empower you. You can get audios to listen to at night that reprogram your mind for success, for power, for happiness and peace. You can get my free happiness guide on there. That's a list of all the things that I've learned over the years really work to make you happier. I've got all kinds of stuff on my store that help you. You can do my program, my hypnosis program. You can do the Stop Smoking Online program. So there's all kinds of things on my store, and the link to that is on my website. So, and then if you want to just look for my book on Amazon, it's on Amazon. And yeah, so, and you can find my contact information and reach out to me to do one-on-one sessions. They are going to be more expensive than any of my workshops. So, starting this month, and I'm really excited about this, starting this month, I'm going to start to do depression and anxiety workshops that I call well-being revolutionizers. And it's basically just each month I'm going to have these, and they're going to be different every time, where every time we're attacking depression and anxiety in different perspectives, different techniques, different approaches, different components of it. And so those are going to be cheaper than one-on-ones, but you'll get the same transformation and positive changes. And then in January, starting in January, I'm going to start doing these seminars that are 2.5 days that will absolutely change your life. And they are going to be just a powerful couple of days where they are so positive. They help you make more money and know how to have better relationships and help you to break out of your limitations that are keeping you from being successful like you want to be. So those are going to be huge. And I'll have all the information about that on my website as well. And then you can follow me on social media, Amy Koford or Amy the Happy Hypnotist.
I'll put all of her links in the description box below. I'll put the website down there where you can find all the information she listed about the upcoming seminars she's doing, the upcoming programs that she's have coming up, as well as just general announcements that she may have in the future. Her website will be there, and then of course her social media platforms will be there as well, so that you can follow her and connect with her online. Feel free to follow me on social media as well. Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube it's Noah's Podcast. And as always, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Pandora, as well as other platforms. So feel free to follow it and subscribe to it so that you'll be notified of when new episodes come out. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today's episode. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.